Hi everyone, it's Teresa with Crafty with Theresa. Thank you so much for joining me today. In today's video, well, get ready to buckle down. Grab a cup of coffee, maybe a cup of tea, or whatever it is that you like to drink, because we've got lots to cover today. We'll be looking at lots of cards. I plan to throw in some surprise items here today, or at least that is the plan. We're continuing the paper pumpkin kit cards called Hello Spring and making the cards from the kit along with the alternatives. Now my goal is to have all the supplies done and have several different types of cards on hand. Today you'll see the cards where we're using up scraps from previous scrapbook kit leftovers. Now these are old and new kits. We'll have a few gift card holders that can be used as graduation cards. That's the plan. And then we'll have a few techniques. You'll see some of the scrapbook layouts I finished recently because they go great with this set of cards. Oh, and you'll see some cards made with those leftover scrapbook items also. And my plan is to show you a coming soon item also. So enough of my chatting, let's get to crafting. We'll put this card together using the directions in the kit. Easy peasy. We'll pull all the items out of the kit and basically put them down directly onto the card. We'll do a little bit of stamping, tie a bow, glue down the die cuts, and voila, it's really that simple. The first thing we'll do is stamp the bulbs. I think I've called them flowers in the past, but I think they're really sprouts or bulbs of some kind. We'll add some Petunia Pop ink onto that stamp. We'll stamp the bulbs directly onto the die cut. And then we'll grab the sentiment Hello Spring and we'll add some Petunia Pop ink to it. Then we'll stamp it onto the circle that came from the kit. And our stamping is done. Now we'll put everything together, and this card can be done in literally no time at all. We'll add our double-sided adhesive to the rectangular piece, the die cut with the bulbs on them, and before we add the rest, we'll grab some twine, tie a bow, and add it behind the green strip. Now I do think you could easily add the twine behind the sentiment, behind the circle, or even put it on that rectangular piece, but I'm trying really hard to go straight from the directions. Lastly, we'll add dimension to the sentiment. That's it. What do you think? Now let's take a look at an alternative card. For this, we'll be using leftover paper from a scrapbook kit. I've been creating mystery boxes to give out to my club members and others who may want them, so in doing that, I have actually started to declutter. Well, I'll say this, somewhat. Anyway, this paper was in one of my vintage boxes, so I grabbed it for this card. Now, I mentioned earlier I'm making some graduation cards. I needed a few, so I thought this paper would be great. The funny thing is, I gravitated to the typewriter for a graduation card, but I'm going to bet that some folks have never used one, at least not a manual one. I know my grandkids ask me, "What is this, Mimi?" And well, I'll probably date myself here, but I remember when we used to have typewriters with carbon copies for files, and oh, let's not forget that if you made a mistake, you had to redo the entire letter or whatever it is that you were typing and start all over. Anyway, I'm dating myself, so good times, right? So this card is basically cutting out pieces from this paper. So we'll do a few things here. We'll actually take the panel that I cut from the card bases in the kit, and I'll use a die cut and cut a small piece out of the middle, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later. Then we'll fussy cut the paper, which we'll use, as I said, the typewriter circle. I also grabbed a piece of vintage paper, and you'll see that it has the alphabet on it, it has numbers and symbols, and so I tend to keep these types of papers because they're fantastic to use on cards. Now here's a case of do as I say, not as I do. I grabbed my paper snips, and if you don't have them, they're fantastic because they cut so nicely. Then I began to cut out each letter to make the word graduate. I did for both upper and lowercase here. I also decided to cut out the 2025 just in case. I didn't end up using them, but I did have some thoughts about it later. Now, my first attempt, I was way overthinking. I was trying to be so perfect, and it took me forever to cut out each one individually. So I will show you that, and I'll also show you my second attempt at this. I basically made slices, basically a strip, and at the bottom I made slices, and then I put it back in the trimmer and sliced it at the top, and voila. It's a little messy, but at least it didn't take me near as long to finish doing the word graduate and the year 2025. Now, we need to line them up. So I just threw them into whatever opening I had near me, which in this case was a black memento pad to just store them for a minute. And then I grabbed some low-tack tape. And I tried to put them in somewhat of a straight line. I prefer using press and seal to do this, but it wasn't handy. So we do what we have to do here. Now, I mentioned earlier, I did go ahead and cut out the middle piece of that pretty blue textured card panel. And I actually had a rectangular piece that we'll be using in a card in just a bit. And I put that in the center and I ran it through my die cut. This panel, by the way, is 4 by 5 1/4. Now I took this design from a card sketch that is located in our mini catalog. It's good till April, so I wanted to take a minute to show you how you can take this one sketch and make very different cards from it. It's card sketch number 12. So there are 3 main items that I focused on in that sketch. There's one large focal point, there's a banner behind it, and then a circle sentiment. So if you remember our card that we did earlier in this video, it's very similar to that. So I picked this sketch to move on and do my alternatives. Now I grabbed the gingham paper, tan gingham paper, and I actually used that to cut my banner to go in the back. Now I did change those sizes as I went along to fit the size of the focal point. For example, if my focal point was a large one, say 3 inches, I made that banner a bit larger. If it was smaller, I reduced it in size. I hope that makes sense. So I started with this first one at, I believe that's 2 by 5 1/4. Now, next, I need to cut out that typewriter, so I just grabbed my paper snips and started cutting out that circle. And I want to remind you that your focal point doesn't have to be a square like it is in the example. You can use other items to kind of go along with the sketch design. So I'll make my dovetail in that brown tan gingham pattern paper. And I think I already mentioned, I believe it's 2 by 5 1/4. And we'll start placing everything on the panel. Now I'll grab some double-sided adhesive, attach it to that gingham dovetail or banner, and then add it to the card panel. Then I'll grab my glue to add to my typewriter. Now I wanted to leave room on the bottom for the word graduate, and that will be done in a straight line. Well, a little bit later you'll see that I changed my mind, So I'll push this up toward the top and we'll just cut off the excess off the sides. To me, that's the easier way to do that. If not, I will just fiddle and fiddle with it and it just takes way too long. So now I changed my mind. I had already put the card together and even added the dimensionals. Well, I decided I wanted that word curved under the circle. I didn't show it in this video, but I had lightly tacked down those letters at the bottom and they were lined up straight. But because they were lightly tacked down, they were very easy to remove. So I changed the letters to go under the circle. I grabbed my take your pick tool and I just lifted each letter up and added a dab of glue to the bottom, and this card is done. Now, we'll go ahead and move on to the next card. For this fold, it's the same type of card, but this time we're going to add in a gift card holder. That will be our focal point on the front of the card. We'll use some leftover scraps. I think I forgot to mention that the brown gingham paper is from the Storybook Moments Scrapbook Kit. And now we're going to use up some leftovers from the Everyday You and Me Scrapbook Kit. I'm actually working on that kit right now, and I really hope that I'm going to be able to add that to the end of this video to give you a sneak peek later on. My fingers are crossed. First, we'll make the gift card holder. The measurements will be however you want to make them. For example, if you want more of the gift card showing, you can adjust that. This is an easy card holder to make. You can do it without a scoring tool or without a ruler or a bone folder. We can make this gift card holder with just plain folds. Now, I ended up adjusting these a bit because, like I mentioned earlier, I wanted a little bit more of that gift card to show up, so you'll see where I cut that down just a bit. So for your first option, it will be to fold it without using a bone folder or even a scoring tool. For those that have been watching me for a while, you know I just wing it a lot of the times, but I'm trying to do better. I mean, I'm trying hard to remember to add in measurements as I go. So this gingham piece has been cut down to 7.5 by 4.25. The only other measurement you need to remember is 3/4 of an inch. Now I mentioned you could just fold it. You could easily just fold the piece on the 7.5 inch side, fold it from the right to the left, and place it at the 3/4 of an inch mark, and do the same at the bottom. For today's video, we'll grab a bone folder and a ruler so hopefully you can see it better. I'll take that ruler and I'll line it up at the 3/4 of an inch mark. I'll take my bone folder and I'll run it up and down. Then I'll rotate my ruler and again place it at the 3/4 of an inch mark. Now, you'll take the right-hand side of the 7.5 inch piece of the paper and you'll grab it and you'll fold it to the left. Now I just use this as a guideline, as a benchmark, so that I can slip my credit card in there very easily. You'll fold it and then crease it. You can do this with your finger if you want to. Now I do have a bone folder, so I'll use that. Next, you'll fold the 1/4 of an inch piece. Fold that in. Now I will grab my circle punch. I believe I got this at just one of the craft stores here in town, and I'll put that little opening at the top of the gift card so that it will be the gift card will be visible. Now I did go ahead and grab my scissors, my little paper snips, and did some minor cuts. Just where your folds are on the left and the right and the angled in score line. Basically mitering it if you're familiar with that. Now we'll add some double-sided tape to the two score areas right at that score line, and that's on those 3/4 inch strips. We'll add it to the left-hand side, we'll add it to the bottom, and we'll fold those in. Remember to put it really close to the score line. And then we'll also add, just for extra reinforcement here, we'll go ahead and add some double-sided tape to the bottom and the side of the right-hand side of the gift card holder, which is actually the front of the gift card holder. Now we'll go ahead and start adding the other pieces. I added a piece of pattern paper that I had left over from the Everyday You and Me kit on top of the pretty blue textured card panel that we cut down from our paper pumpkin kit. Now I was running low on green paper, so we just had to make do. I used what I had, and because the focal point was so big, I actually created my banner, but I cut it down to a smaller size. As you can see here, I think that square is literally like a 2x2, but we're going to make that work. I grabbed those letters and added them diagonally to the front of the gift card holder. Now I actually did this a little different, but I did want to show you this because this is how I ended up putting together the circle underneath the typewriter. I placed the letters down, then I added removable tape on top, and just so you know, that removable tape, I don't even know where I got that, but I think it's available, and it's actually one that you can put in your tape dispenser. Anyway, I grabbed that glue, like I mentioned, and you'll see here where I just pick up the letter with that take your pick tool, and then I add some glue on the bottom, and then I just press it down. And then when I'm finished, and I've got it all tacked down, I will put a block on there so that it has some pressure and dries nice. So we don't have to worry about them lifting up. Now I wanted to make the notch stand out a little more, so I grabbed the rectangle piece from the kit and I cut it in half to make it look like a tab. We'll add that inside the gift card holder right around that notch. We'll add dimensionals to the back of the gift card holder, and this card is pretty much done. Now I know not everyone has those pattern papers with letters and numbers, so I wanted to show you another option. You can grab sentiments and phrases, you could do stamping. There are so many ways that you could add something to the front of that gift card holder, but I have something called a mix and match ephemera pack. I have used that more than once in my videos. You've probably seen it so many times, but I love using those. So I picked out a few for you to show you what would look great on this graduation card and just kind of show you the options that are in that ephemera pack. Now there is one that I forgot to show you here, and of course that's the one I ended up putting on the card. It will go on that tab at the very top and it says, "You did it." Now I know I've covered a lot today, but here's a look at all the cards I've gotten done so far with the card bases that I cut apart from that Hello Spring kit. I have another gift card holder that I'll show you here because I wanted to show you the piece that we cut out of the typewriter graduate card out of the blue textured panel. Basically, we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to cut that in half and it will end up being a tab on this other gift card holder. Now I'm trying to share more of my scrapbooking as I get them done. Well, I was able to get some of the layouts done using the Everyday You and Me kit. And I'm so excited. I wasn't sure I was going to get this in here today, but this kit is going to be so good for my family photos. Now you will still see removable tape on these layouts today. I did that on purpose because I may have to change the photos from portrait to landscape, and I want to be able to do that easily. The first layout, Nothing But Smiles, is for my youngest son. His album is looking pretty slim, so I got to get caught up on that one. Then the scrapbook layout that says All of Us Together, I am most excited about this one because our family photos will be done in various colors of blue. And the other cool thing is we're trying to get that done at sunset. So that wild wheat and orange color will look so awesome. I'm super excited to add those pictures to my albums. I'll have to add more pages to that because I'll end up getting more pictures. I know I will. I have a hard time resisting them. So I held back a few of the actual pattern papers so that I can create more pages once I get my pictures. Now, just a few things. Coming soon, I will be finishing up all of the remaining papers that I had for the storybook moments. You may see some reels of all of the cards and scrapbook layouts that I made on that. That's my goal. And I will also put a reel out for all of the items that I've done with this paper pumpkin kit. And then one other item, the Floral Delight paper. I actually am just about to complete that paper. I used it again in scrapbook layouts, but I also made quite a few cards with that paper. So you'll see that coming out in a reel also. I know I've been absent a little bit, have a lot going on. All good though. I thank you so much for sticking with me here today. I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you could please like, share, comment, hit the notification button. Oh, and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. So stay tuned, more videos to come. And until next time, have a great day.